The sun was slowly rising above the tall buildings of the city. Golden rays touched the glass windows of skyscrapers, turning them into shining mirrors. The streets were already alive with people rushing to work, cars honking, and vendors setting up small stalls. Yet in the middle of this busy city stood a wide green park, peaceful and calm, almost like another world hidden between towers of steel and glass. This park was a favorite place for children, mothers with strollers, and elderly people who liked to sit quietly on benches. Birds chirped in the trees and the fresh smell of grass floated in the morning air. It was here that Anna, the daughter of billionaire David, often came to play. Anna was a cheerful little girl with bright eyes and endless curiosity. She loved to explore, ask questions, and make friends with anyone she met. But she was also a lonely child. Though she lived in a mansion bigger than most schools with wide halls, shining floors, and endless rooms, she missed something important. Her father was always busy with meetings, calls, and business trips. He gave her everything she wanted, clothes, toys, and gadgets, but rarely gave her his time. On one bright morning, Anna ran to the park with her nanny following behind. The nanny was busy talking on the phone and soon sat on a bench, leaving Anna free to wander. Anna skipped along the stone path, her shoes tapping lightly as she went deeper into the park. Under the shade of a large oak tree, she noticed a boy sitting on the ground. He was about her age, maybe a little older, with dark skin and messy hair. His clothes were worn and slightly torn, and next to him was a small bag that looked heavy but old. What caught Anna's eye were the books spread out in front of him. They were second-hand books with torn covers and folded pages, yet the boy handled them as if they were treasures made of gold. The boy sat cross-legged with one book open on his lap. His lips moved as he read the words softly to himself. His voice was steady, though quiet, and his eyes shone with focus. Anna was curious. She slowly walked closer until she was standing right in front of him. "Hello," she said with a smile. The boy looked up, startled at first. He quickly closed his book halfway as if afraid she might take it. But when he saw her innocent face, his worry softened. "Hello," he replied, his voice polite. "What are you doing?" Anna asked. "I'm reading," the boy answered. His tone was simple, almost shy. Anna's eyes grew wide. "Reading? Can you teach me?" The boy blinked. Nobody had ever asked him that before. For most people, he was invisible, just another poor boy in the park. Sometimes people gave him food, sometimes they ignored him. But no one had ever asked him to teach. "Teach you," he repeated. "Yes," Anna nodded firmly. She sat down on the grass without waiting for permission. "I want to learn from you." The boy hesitated, looking at her clean dress and polished shoes. He wondered if she was just joking, but her eyes were full of excitement and honesty. Slowly, he opened his book again. "My name is Sam," he said softly. "I'm Anna," she replied cheerfully. "Let's start." Sam smiled for the first time in a long while. He pointed to the words in the book and began reading aloud. His voice carried the rhythm of practice, for he had taught himself to read over the years. He explained each word carefully, breaking them into small sounds so Anna could repeat after him. Anna listened closely. She repeated each word with energy, sometimes wrong, sometimes right, but always eager. Sam corrected her patiently, and when she got it right, he gave a small nod of approval. Minutes turned into an hour, and the two children sat under the oak tree, completely absorbed in their small classroom made of grass, books, and sunshine. For the first time in a long while, Sam felt important. Teaching Anna made him forget that he was hungry, that he had no real home, and that people often looked down on him. For the first time, someone valued what he had learned. And for Anna, the experience was magical. She had many teachers at school, but none made learning feel like an adventure the way Sam did. Meanwhile, not far away, David was finishing an early meeting at his office. Though he was a billionaire with more money than he could ever spend, his life was full of pressure. Every day was a race, meetings with investors, negotiations with partners, and constant worry about keeping his empire strong. But on this morning, something unusual happened. His assistant reminded him that Anna was at the park, and David suddenly felt a pull in his heart. For weeks he had promised her he would spend more time with her, but had broken his word again and again. Today he decided to leave the office early and surprise her. His sleek black car drove smoothly through the city streets until it reached the park entrance. David stepped out, his suit crisp, his shoes shining. He walked along the stone path, searching for his daughter. At first, he could not find her. Then he noticed her under the oak tree, sitting cross-legged on the grass. She was laughing, her eyes full of light. But she was not alone. Next to her sat a boy, a homeless-looking boy with torn clothes and messy hair, teaching her from an old book. David froze. A wave of surprise and confusion rushed through him. His daughter, who had the best tutors money could buy, was sitting happily with a poor stranger. His first instinct was to run and pull Anna away. His protective side rose quickly, worried that she might not be safe. But then he stopped. Something about the scene held him still. He watched as Sam pointed to the book, speaking carefully, and Anna repeated each word with joy. The boy's patience was clear, his focus strong, and his care for teaching real. Anna clapped her hands when she got a word right, and the boy gave a small, proud smile as if he had just achieved something great. David felt a strange stirring inside him. It was not anger, nor fear. It was something else, something he could not name yet. He took a step closer. Anna noticed him first. She jumped up and ran toward him, her arms wide. "Papa!" she shouted with happiness. David bent down to hug her, his eyes never leaving the boy under the tree. "Papa, this is Sam," Anna said with excitement. "He is my friend and my teacher." Sam stood up quickly, holding his old book tightly. He lowered his eyes, unsure what to say to the powerful man before him. David studied him quietly. The boy's clothes were worn, his face a little tired, but his eyes were alive with determination. David, who had met kings, presidents, and billionaires, suddenly felt a deep respect for this homeless child who sat teaching his daughter with nothing but an old book. And in that moment, though he did not know it yet, David's life was about to change forever. David stood tall, holding Anna close while his eyes stayed fixed on the boy. The morning breeze moved through the leaves, and the sound of birds filled the silence between them. Sam clutched his old book tighter, his shoulders stiff. He did not know whether the rich man would shout, chase him away, or maybe even call someone to remove him from the park. Anna, however, was smiling brightly. She had no fear at all. "Papa, I was learning," she said proudly. "Sam is very smart. He teaches me better than my school teacher. He makes learning fun." David raised his eyebrows. His daughter, who always complained about lessons at home, was suddenly praising this stranger. He looked at Sam again. The boy's clothes were torn, his shoes barely held together, and his face showed signs of a hard life. Yet there was a calm strength in his eyes. "What is your name, boy?" David asked in a steady voice. "Sam," the boy answered quietly. "And what were you teaching my daughter?" David continued. Sam hesitated for a moment, then lifted the book slightly. "Words and numbers," he said. "She wanted to learn, so I showed her." David's gaze softened a little. He had expected the boy to run away or speak rudely, but Sam stood his ground with honesty. Anna tugged on her father's sleeve, eager to explain. "Papa, did you know Sam can read so well? He showed me new words and I could say them. He is patient, and he never gets angry when I make mistakes. I like learning with him." David did not reply immediately. Instead, he crouched down so he could look Anna in the eyes. "Anna, you know you have teachers at home. Why are you learning from him?" Anna shook her head quickly. "Because they only teach from books in a boring way. Sam makes the words come alive. He makes it like a game. And he listens to me. Please, Papa, let me learn from him again." Her voice was full of hope, and her smile was bright. David felt a tug in his heart. He had given his daughter the best schools, the most expensive tutors. Yet here she was, sitting in the grass with a poor boy and finding more joy in learning than anywhere else. He looked at Sam again. The boy stood quietly, waiting. His posture showed respect, but his eyes carried a silent strength, almost as if he wanted to prove himself without speaking too much. David finally spoke. "Where are your parents, Sam?" The boy lowered his head. His fingers pressed harder against the edges of his book. "I do not have them," he said softly. "They passed away some years ago. I live alone," Anna gasped. She held her father's arm tightly. "Papa, that is so sad." "He is all alone." David felt a weight in his chest. He was a man who controlled companies worth millions. He was used to making decisions that affected thousands of workers. But now in front of this boy, he felt powerless for the first time in years. "And where do you live?" David asked gently. Sam gave a small shrug. "Wherever I can." Sometimes at the shelter, sometimes under the bridge. I do small jobs for food, but I always keep my books. They are the only thing I have that nobody can take away. His words struck David deeply. A child with nothing but old books had managed to teach his daughter with patience and care. A boy who had no home still carried dreams in his heart. Anna tugged on her father's hand again. Papa, can Sam come home with us? He can be my teacher. Please say yes. David's mind raced. Bringing a stranger into his mansion was not simple. There were rules, guards, and people who might not understand. But when he looked at Anna's hopeful eyes and Sam's quiet strength, something inside him shifted. He cleared his throat. Not today, Anna, he said slowly. But perhaps we can meet him again. Sam's eyes lowered. He had expected nothing, and yet part of him had secretly hoped for more. Still, he nodded politely. Thank you, sir, he said, though his voice carried a hint of disappointment. David stood up straight, taking Anna's hand. Come, Anna, it is time to go. But Papa, Anna protested, I want to stay longer. David smiled gently. Next time. Reluctantly, Anna hugged Sam quickly before following her father. Sam stood under the oak tree, clutching his book. He watched them walk away, the image of the tall man in a fine suit holding the little girl's hand. For a moment, Sam felt the distance between his world and theirs more sharply than ever. Later that day, back at the mansion, Anna could not stop talking about Sam. At the dining table, while the servants placed dishes of fine food, she kept repeating his name. Papa, Sam knows so much. He told me stories from the books. He even made numbers sound fun. You should have heard him. David listened quietly, his fork still in his hand. The food on his plate was untouched. Papa, can we go to the park tomorrow? Can we see him again? Anna asked eagerly. David sighed. Anna, life is not so simple. Sam is not like us. He has no home, no family. It may not be safe. Anna's eyes filled with tears. But Papa, he is kind. He is not dangerous. Why can't you help him? Her innocent question cut deeper than any business deal or negotiation David had ever faced. Why couldn't he help him? Was it because he was too busy or because he was afraid of stepping into a world far from his own? That night, while Anna slept peacefully with her doll beside her, David stood by the window of his study. The city lights shone outside, endless and bright, but his thoughts were far away. He remembered the look in Sam's eyes, the way the boy held his book as if it was the most precious thing in the world. He remembered Anna's laughter under the oak tree, a sound he had not heard in so long. For years, David had believed that money could solve every problem. He had built companies, bought properties, and surrounded himself with wealth. Yet in the presence of a poor boy with nothing but books, he felt small. Sam's night, while David stood in his mansion, Sam was walking through the cold streets. His old bag hung on his shoulder, and his stomach growled with hunger. He reached the small shelter where he sometimes slept, but it was full. With nowhere else to go, he found a quiet corner near the park, curled up under his thin blanket and hugged his books close. As the night grew colder, he thought about Anna's smile. For the first time in months, he had felt like more than just a homeless boy. He had felt like a teacher, a friend, someone important. That memory warmed him even as the wind blew against his skin, a father's reflection. The next morning, David sat at the breakfast table, but his mind was far away. Anna was cheerful, humming a tune while eating her toast. She looked up at him and said, Papa, I want to see Sam again. Please, can we go? David looked into his daughter's hopeful eyes. He realized this was not just about her happiness. This was about something larger. Something inside him told him that meeting Sam was no accident. It was a test, a choice. He could ignore the boy and return to his world of wealth. Or he could step forward and do something that might change not only the boy's life, but his own. David placed his cup down slowly. Anna, he said, we will go to the park this afternoon. Her face lit up with joy and she clapped her hands. Thank you, Papa. David managed a smile, but deep inside he knew this was the beginning of something far greater than he had planned. The afternoon sun was warm when David's car rolled into the park. Anna sat in the back seat, her small hands pressed against the window, her eyes scanning eagerly for Sam. She bounced in her seat with excitement, waiting for the moment she would see her new friend again. When the driver opened the door, Anna jumped out before anyone could stop her. She ran across the grass, her hair flowing behind her. Her voice rang out clear as she called, Sam, Sam! Under the same oak tree, Sam was sitting with his books spread out. His bag rested by his side. and he was carefully turning the fragile pages of an old dictionary. At the sound of Anna's voice, he looked up. A wide smile spread across his face as he saw her running toward him. "You came back," Sam said softly, almost as if he couldn't believe it. "Of course," Anna replied happily. "I told you I would. And Papa came too." Sam's eyes shifted behind her. He saw David walking slowly, his tall figure casting a long shadow over the grass. Sam's smile faded a little. He quickly stood, brushing off his knees, and held his book tightly against his chest. David stopped a few steps away. For a long moment he said nothing, just studied the boy. Finally he spoke in a calm voice. "Good afternoon, Sam." Sam lowered his head politely. "Good afternoon, sir." Anna looked between them, sensing the silence. She grabbed Sam's hand and pulled him closer. "Papa, can Sam teach me again today?" "Please?" David nodded slightly. "Yes, but first I want to talk with him." Sam's stomach tightened. He had never spoken much to rich men, and he did not know what questions might come. But he respected Anna's father, so he stood still, waiting. David gestured toward a bench nearby. "Come, let us sit and talk." Sam followed, still clutching his book. Anna skipped happily beside them, unaware of the tension in the air. When they reached the bench, David sat down, his suit neat and perfect against the rough wooden seat. Anna sat beside him, but Sam remained standing, unsure if he was allowed to sit. David noticed his hesitation. "Sit, Sam," he said gently. Sam lowered himself carefully onto the edge of the bench, his back straight, his hands folded over the book on his lap. David looked at him closely. "Anna told me you have no parents. Is that true?" Sam nodded. "Yes, sir. Tell me," David said softly. "What happened?" Sam took a deep breath. He was not used to sharing his story, but something about David's steady gaze encouraged him. "My parents worked in a factory. One winter there was a fire. They never came home. Since then I have lived on the streets. Sometimes the shelter lets me stay, but it is not always safe. I do small jobs like cleaning tables or carrying bags to earn coins for food. But books are the only thing I keep with me always." David listened in silence. His heart grew heavy at each word. He could almost picture the boy alone in the cold, carrying his bag of books through dark alleys. "Why books?" David asked after a pause. Sam's eyes lifted for the first time, full of quiet determination. "Because books cannot be taken from me. Food is eaten and gone. Clothes wear out, but what I learn stays in my mind. Knowledge is the only thing that can help me change my life." David felt something stir deep inside him. He had met men who studied only for money, who built businesses for greed, who treated knowledge like a tool to gain power. But here was a boy who saw knowledge as light in his darkness. Anna leaned against Sam's arm. "Papa, did you hear? Sam loves books like I love toys. But he has so few of them. Maybe you can give him more." Her innocent words made David blink. He had the wealth to buy every book in the world, yet this boy treasured a handful of torn pages as if they were priceless. "Sam?" David asked slowly. "Do you go to school?" The boy shook his head. "No, sir, I cannot. Schools need uniforms, books, and fees. I have no money for those things. So I learn on my own, reading whatever books I can find from trash bins or markets. Sometimes people give me old ones." Anna's eyes filled with sadness. "Papa, that is not fair. He is so smart. Why can't he go to school like me?" David had no answer. For years he had believed his money gave his daughter the best chance at success. But sitting here he realized that talent and determination could be found anywhere, even under a tree in a public park. He leaned forward slightly. "Sam, do you want to study in a real school?" Sam's eyes widened. "More than anything," he said honestly. "But I know it is impossible for me." "Why impossible?" David asked. "Because I have no family, no address, no money," Sam replied. "Schools want all those things. I only have books and hope." David sat back, his mind troubled. He had always believed rules and systems worked for everyone. But Sam's words opened his eyes to the truth, that many children like him were left outside those systems, unseen and forgotten. Anna reached out, holding her father's hand and Sam's hand together. "Papa, can't you help him?" "You always say you can fix big problems at work. Then help Sam. Please." David looked down at their small hands joined together. His daughter's innocence and the boy's quiet strength created a picture he could not ignore. For a moment he said nothing. Then he turned to Sam. "What is your dream, boy? What do you want to become?" Sam's voice grew firm. I want to be a teacher. I want to help children like me who have nothing. I want to show them that they can change their lives with learning. The words struck David like thunder. A boy with no food, no home, and no comfort dreamed not of wealth, not of power, but of helping others. Anna's eyes shone with admiration. See, Papa? He is already a teacher. He taught me. David's heart felt heavy. He had spent his life chasing wealth, building companies, and guarding his empire. Yet here was a child with nothing who dreamed bigger than he ever had. At last, David stood up. Sam, he said quietly, you are not invisible to me anymore. I see you, and I will think about what I can do. Sam rose quickly too, clutching his book. He bowed his head. Thank you, sir, he whispered. Anna beamed. Does that mean we can see him again, Papa? David nodded. Yes, we will see him again. That evening back at the mansion, David could not concentrate on his work. His office was full of documents, contracts, and glowing screens, but his mind was filled with Sam's words. Knowledge is the only thing that can help me change my life. He walked to the window, looking at the city lights. He thought of his own childhood, growing up in comfort, going to the best schools, never worrying about food or shelter. And then he thought of Sam, sleeping who knows where, holding old books under his arm. For the first time in years, David questioned himself. What good was all his wealth if he could not use it to make a difference? Sam's night that night. Sam returned to his corner near the park. The wind was cold and he had only his thin blanket, but his heart was warm. For the first time, someone had listened to his story. For the first time, someone important had asked about his dreams. He lay on the hard ground, holding his book close. His stomach was empty, but his mind was full of hope. Maybe, just maybe, his life was about to change. And so the bond between the billionaire, his daughter, and the homeless boy grew stronger. Each of them was beginning to see the world differently, and none of them knew that the choices made in these early days would shape their lives forever. The next morning in the mansion, David sat at the breakfast table, but his mind was far away. The servants brought fresh fruit, warm bread, and coffee, yet he hardly touched any of it. Anna sat across from him, swinging her legs under the chair while humming a little tune. She was cheerful, but she noticed her father's silence. Papa, she asked softly, are you thinking about Sam again? David looked at her and gave a small nod. Yes, Anna, I am thinking about him. Anna smiled brightly. Good. That means you will help him. David leaned back in his chair. Helping someone like Sam is not easy, my dear. It is not just about giving money. It is about changing his whole life, and that is a big step. Anna tilted her head, her young face full of innocence. But Papa, you are always making big steps in your work. You always tell me that a leader should be brave. Why can't you be brave for Sam? Her words pierced his heart. Out of the mouths of children came the simplest truths. He placed his cup down, his hands resting on the table. You are right, Anna, he said slowly. I should be brave. But bravery in business is different from bravery in life. Business decisions cost money, but this kind of decision could change hearts, futures, and even our family. Anna did not fully understand, but she nodded as if she did. At the office later that day, David sat in his tall glass office overlooking the city. His desk was covered with reports, contracts, and schedules, yet all the numbers on the papers blurred in his mind. He kept seeing Sam's face, the way the boy clutched his old book, the determination in his eyes, and the strength in his voice when he spoke about dreams. For years, David had told himself that wealth was enough. He built charities, wrote donations, and gave money to causes. But giving money from a distance was not the same as stepping into someone's life. Helping Sam meant more than writing a check. It meant opening his world, his home, his heart. His phone buzzed with calls from partners. His assistant knocked on the door with reminders about meetings. But David waved them away. He sat alone, thinking deeply. Finally, he whispered to himself, what kind of man do I want to be? One who builds towers of glass or one who builds lives? Back at the park, meanwhile, Sam sat once again under the oak tree, his books spread around him. He read quietly, but his thoughts were distracted. Meeting David had changed something inside him. For the first time, someone powerful had listened to him. For the first time, he had felt seen. He wondered if he would see Anna again. He wondered if her father would keep his promise. Part of him wanted to hope, but another part warned him not to. Life on the streets had taught him that promises often faded like smoke. Yet, Deep in his heart, the spark of hope refused to die. The return that afternoon, David returned to the park with Anna. As soon as the car stopped, Anna leaped out, her face glowing with joy. She ran straight to the oak tree. "Sam!" she shouted. Sam looked up from his book and his face lit up with a smile. "Anna," he said warmly. She threw herself down on the grass beside him. "I missed you." "I missed you too," Sam replied. David approached slowly, his hands in his pockets. He stood before the boy, his sharp eyes softened by thought. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Finally, David spoke. "Sam, I want to ask you something important." Sam stood, his shoulders straight though his heart raced. "Yes, sir." David took a deep breath. "If I gave you the chance to study in a real school, would you take it?" Sam's eyes widened. He stared at David, unable to speak for a moment. His lips parted, but no sound came. Anna clapped her hands. "See, Sam? I told you Papa would help." At last, Sam found his voice. "Yes, sir, I would. I would work harder than anyone. I would not waste the chance." David studied his face. He saw no hesitation, no greed, only hunger for knowledge. That hunger reminded him of something he had lost long ago. "But there is more," David continued. "Education is only one part. You would need food, clothes, a safe place to live. You would need guidance. Are you ready for that change?" Sam held his book tighter. "Yes, sir. I am ready. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be someone who can help others one day." David nodded slowly. His decision was forming, yet doubt still lingered in his mind. Could he truly bring this boy into his world? Would society accept it? Would his business partners question him? Would his own family understand? But then he looked at Anna, her eyes shining with hope, and he knew the answer. A night of thought. That night, David walked alone through the halls of his mansion. The marble floors reflected his steps, and the grand chandeliers shone above him. Yet the house felt empty. All the wealth around him could not fill the silence. He entered Anna's room quietly. She was asleep, hugging her doll, her face peaceful. He stood there for a long time, watching her. She deserved a world filled with kindness, not just riches. She deserved a father who showed her that life was more than money. He whispered to himself, "If I do this, it will not only change Sam's life. It will change mine too." The decision. The next morning, David made his choice. He called Anna into his study. She entered, still in her nightdress, rubbing her eyes. "Papa?" she asked. David knelt before her. "Anna, I have decided. We will help Sam. We will bring him into our lives. But it will not be easy. People may not understand. Some may even judge us. Are you ready for that?" Anna's eyes filled with determination. "Yes, Papa, I just want Sam to have a chance." David smiled gently. "Then it is settled." Meeting Sam again later that day, they went to the park once more. Sam was waiting under the oak tree, his books beside him. When he saw them, he stood quickly. David stepped forward. "Sam, I have made my decision. If you are willing, I will give you a home, food, clothes, and a place in school. I will support you as you learn, but you must promise me something in return." Sam's voice trembled. "Anything, sir." "Promise me that you will work hard," David said firmly. "Promise me you will respect this chance and never waste it." Tears filled Sam's eyes, but he stood tall. "I promise, sir. I will not waste it. I will make you proud." Anna hugged him tightly. "You are coming with us, Sam. You are not alone anymore." David felt a warmth in his heart, a warmth he had not felt in years. For the first time, he was not just a businessman or a billionaire. He was a man choosing kindness over comfort, courage over fear. That night, as Sam stepped into the mansion for the first time, his eyes widened at the shining floors, the tall walls, and the endless rooms. It was a world he had never imagined. Yet more than the wealth around him, what touched him most was the kindness that had opened the door. And for David, it was the beginning of a journey he never expected. A journey that would test him, change him, and teach him what true wealth really meant. Sam stood in the grand hallway of the mansion, his heart beating fast. The walls were painted in soft cream, golden lights glowed from the ceiling, and the marble floor was so clean it reflected his face. For a moment, he felt like he had stepped into another world. His old torn shoes touched the polished floor, and he quickly pulled them off, holding them in his hands as if they did not belong there. Anna noticed and giggled. "You do not have to take them off, Sam. Papa will not mind. David, standing beside them, smiled faintly. She is right. This is your home now, Sam. You do not need to feel out of place. But Sam's heart was not calm. He had spent years sleeping under bridges, in corners of parks, and sometimes in shelters. Now he was standing inside a house so big that it felt like a palace. He whispered softly, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anna." The first meal. The cook, an older woman with kind eyes, prepared a meal for Sam. Plates of warm rice, vegetables, and roasted chicken were placed before him. Sam stared at the food as if it were treasure. He picked up the spoon slowly, almost afraid to touch it. Anna leaned forward. "Eat, Sam. You must be hungry." Sam nodded and began eating carefully, savoring each bite. It had been so long since he had eaten a meal like this. He tried not to eat too fast, but the taste filled his mouth with joy. Tears formed in his eyes without him realizing. David watched him silently. He had seen many business deals in his life, but never had he felt this kind of satisfaction. Watching a boy enjoy simple food made him feel richer than all the contracts he had signed. When Sam finally finished, he whispered again, "I will never forget this kindness." The room after the meal. Anna grabbed Sam's hand and pulled him upstairs. She opened a door to a room prepared for him. The room had a soft bed covered with white sheets, a wooden desk by the window, and a small bookshelf with some storybooks and notebooks. Sam stood frozen at the door. "This is for me?" "Yes," Anna said proudly. "Papa told them to make it ready for you. Now you have your own room, just like me." Sam stepped inside slowly. He touched the blanket, pressed the pillow, and ran his hand along the bookshelf. It all felt unreal. He had slept on cold ground for years. Now he had a bed of his own. He sat down, then lay back on the mattress, closing his eyes for a moment. His whole body relaxed. David entered quietly. "Do you like it, Sam?" Sam sat up quickly. "Yes, sir. It is more than I ever dreamed of. I will work hard. I promise I will not let you down." David placed a hand on his shoulder. "All I ask is that you study and be honest. That is enough." The first night that night, Sam lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He could not sleep at first. The silence of the room was strange to him. He was used to the sound of traffic, the barking of stray dogs, and the cold wind brushing his face. Now he had warmth, comfort, and safety. At last he whispered a prayer of thanks in his heart. Then, with a peaceful smile, he drifted into the deepest sleep he had known in years. A new morning. The next morning, Sam woke up early. Sunlight poured through the window, painting the room golden. He washed quickly, put on the clean clothes David had arranged for him, and went downstairs. David was already at the breakfast table reading the newspaper. Anna was eating bread with jam. When she saw Sam, she waved happily. "Good morning, Sam." "Good morning," Sam replied shyly. David looked up from the paper. "How was your first night?" "It was the best night of my life, sir," Sam said honestly. David nodded with satisfaction. "Good, eat well. Today will be an important day for you." Sam looked curious. "What do you mean, sir?" "You are going to school, Sam. I spoke to the principal yesterday. They agreed to give you a place. We will visit today to finish the admission process." Sam's eyes widened in shock. He had dreamed of going to school for years, but never thought it would happen. "Really, sir?" "Yes," David said firmly. "It is time you begin your education properly." Anna clapped her hands with excitement. "I will help you with your homework, Sam." At the school later that day, David's car stopped in front of a tall building with wide gates. Children in neat uniforms entered the grounds, their laughter filling the air. Sam held his book tightly against his chest as he stepped out of the car. His heart pounded with both excitement and fear. Inside, David spoke with the principal, a kind woman with glasses. She looked at Sam and smiled. "So this is the boy you told me about?" "Yes," David replied. "He is determined to learn. I hope you will give him the guidance he needs." The principal nodded. "We will do our best. Sam, welcome to our school." Sam bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, ma'am. I will study hard." The principal gave him books and a uniform. When Sam held them, his hands trembled. These were not old second-hand books found in the trash. They were new, clean, and truly his. The first class, Anna walked with Sam to his classroom. The students turned to look at him curiously. Some whispered, while others just stared. Sam felt nervous but remembered David's words. Be honest, be strong. The teacher welcomed him and told him to sit near Anna. As the lesson began, Sam listened carefully. His eyes followed every word written on the board. His mind soaked up the knowledge like dry earth drinking water. When the teacher asked a question, Sam raised his hand slowly. His answer was correct. The class grew quiet, surprised at how quickly he understood. Anna grinned proudly. By the end of the day, Sam felt a new sense of belonging. He was no longer just a boy on the streets. He was now a student, someone with a future. The struggle but change was not simple. Some students were not kind. During lunch, a group of boys mocked him. "Look at his shoes," one said. "He does not belong here." Sam lowered his head but stayed quiet. He wanted to answer back, but he remembered his promise to David. He chose silence over anger. Anna stood up for him. "Do not say that. Sam is smart and kind. He belongs here more than you." The boys laughed and walked away, but Sam felt grateful. That night, when he returned home, he told David about it. David listened carefully. "Sam, the world will always have people who judge others by where they come from. But what matters is where you are going.
Keep your head high and your heart clean."
That is how you prove them wrong." Sam nodded. His determination grew stronger. Growing bonds days turned into weeks. Sam worked harder than anyone in his class. He spent hours reading, writing, and solving problems. Anna often studied with him, and together they built a strong friendship. David watched them both with pride. He saw the light returning to his daughter's life. And he saw hope blooming in Sam. The mansion, once filled only with wealth, now felt alive with warmth and laughter. Sam still remembered his old life, but now he believed in a brighter tomorrow. A silent promise one evening, Sam stood by the window of his new room, looking out at the stars. He thought about the nights he had once spent under the open sky, cold and hungry. Now he had a bed, food, school, and people who cared for him. He placed his hand on his chest and whispered, "One day, I will repay this kindness. I will become someone who can help children like me. I promise." It was a silent promise, but it filled his heart with fire. Sam's journey had only begun, but already his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a boy under the oak tree. He was now a boy with a family, a student with dreams, and a soul filled with hope. And for David, it was proof that one choice of kindness could create ripples that would last a lifetime.